They monitor your letters, they monitor your calls, they monitor your footsteps, they monitor it all. Incarceration of a generation, exploitation through legislation, through privatization, dehumanization, dehumanization. We are the chain link nation, trapped in our own foundation, breaking the bars of the station, screaming against damnation. Cages built on profit and fear. Cages built on profit and fear. Cages built on profit and fear. Are you listening?
Yes, sir, man. You already know what time it is. We're back here to serve some more game on the ground for them hungry hounds. You just start the pound and are ready for the next round. So with that being said, we're going to do a different kind of episode tonight. We're going to be covering a couple of different things, actually, that I find are interesting to me. And not really interesting in a good way. More like interesting in like kind of an alarming way, so to speak. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this. I got a couple of different things I'm going to show y'all. Number one being something that Bill Gates talked about. I'm not exactly sure how long ago it was. I don't know how recent it was or how long ago it was. It couldn't have been more than like 6-7 years ago, because it had to do with like the COVID vaccine and all that. So let me go ahead and pull this up real quick, and then we'll be able to jump right into it. Just a second, y'all. There we go.
It's new.
All right. So he talked about a vaccine, a variation of the COVID vaccine called the mRNA. And basically what it does is it allows them to replace DNA in your body. And we're gonna listen to this and he'll explain it a little bit, and then there's gonna be somebody else that starts explaining some things that he found on a government website. So let's go ahead and jump into this, man. This shit is weird as hell to me, honestly.
And is promising is called the RNA vaccine. With RNA and DNA, instead of putting that shape in, you put instructions in the code to make that shape. You put instructions in the code to make that shape.
Everything that I'm about to mention is currently being developed by Bill Gates, often in partnership with the CV-19 Playbook, MIT, all of which is backed by the United Nations and the Rockefeller Foundation. Due to ongoing mutations with CV-19, the CV vaccine currently being developed will alter our DNA through an actual synthesizing of our individual genetic code using mRNA and CRISPR technology, which acts as scissors by cutting DNA at a designated spot and removing or inserting a new sequence with an artificial code to make sure every man, woman, and child complies with the One World Order's mandatory implementations. Gates and MIT are currently developing the Human Implantable Quantum Dot Microneedle Vaccination Delivery System. It's a tattoo for the hand, which will include our identification mark and vaccination records. It needs an enzyme called luciferase in order to make it work. The transhumanist agent on every person's hand will glow with the bioluminescence of the light bearer, a chip you cannot remove with a knife. This tracking system will alter your DNA, and it's permanent. 33rd degree Freemason and occultist Manly P. Hall once wrote, quote, "The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands."
So this is urgent, and it's going to require incredible collaboration. It's going to have to go to 7 billion people.
So
One final way that's new and is promised.
shut up. So that's what Bill Gates is currently working on. And the reason why I find that alarming is what he said it will do and what that dude read that is needed to have that vaccine, quote unquote, vaccine work. I don't like it one bit. And y'all can sit around and say it's conspiracy theory this, conspiracy theory that. I don't, quite honestly, don't give a fuck what y'all think about it. I'm telling you exactly what it is. It is the gateway to the beast system, and that is 100% facts. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there who will disregard it, and they're going to get it anyways. I, for one, will tell you that I prefer to be a purebred, a pureblood. Fuck vaccines, fuck the mark of the beast, fuck all that shit. And he said that it's a chip embedded in you by way of a tattoo that you can't remove with, not even with a knife. Which actually kind of tracks with what Scripture talks about in the mark of the beast. Once you take it, there's no going back. There is no turning back. Once you take it, you are fucked for all eternity. And that is 100% facts. And that shit is actually kind of scary when you think about it. And they're literally working their way towards making that shit a reality. That shit changes and alters your DNA. That shit will work as mind control. That shit will turn people into robots. That shit will turn people into mindless human beings. Fuck that. Fuck that. And the gateway into that is probably, in my opinion, I'm thinking it's probably going to be that digital ID shit that's coming out. They're trying to come out with, which is what we're going to get into next. In the UK, they're trying to implement the digital ID to where if you don't have it, you can't work, you'll have no money, you can't do anything. You can't fly, you can't go nowhere without a digital ID. It says they want transhumanism, we will be like batteries. Remember the Matrix. That's what it is, bro. That's 100% facts, and it's scary. Y'all need to go back and watch the Matrix movies. They want control. They want 100% control and compliance with the common people. This is literally scripture, prophecy unfolding in front of everybody's eyes. And still there's going to be too many people who are still so blind to it that still won't give a fuck. That still will take that vaccine, that mark, without a second thought. And once they realize, oh shit, I just took the mark of the beast, there's no turning back. There is no turning back. You cannot get that shit out of your body once you take it. Fuck that. Fuck that. Anyways, we're going to move on. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up real quick. Oh shit. I just did the wrong thing. We're going to move on to RFK Jr. talking about the digital ID. Let me go ahead and pull this back up. Pause that real quick and change this stupid ass layout. Alright. So, RFK Jr. was talking about the digital ID and the, I believe he also talked about the digital banking system or whatever. So let's go ahead and listen to this.
5 years, we're going to see 415,000 low orbit satellites. Bill Gates says his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day. They're putting in 5G to harvest our data.
Okay, I don't think this is about digital ID, but it doesn't matter. Because this shit is still all basically the same thing.
Control our behavior. Digital currency that will allow them to punish us from a distance and cut off our food supply. Vaccine passports. In 5 years, we're going to see 450.
We're going to listen to this again, and I want y'all to really take this in.
18,000 low orbit satellites. Bill Gates says his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day. They're putting in 5G to harvest our data and control our behavior. Digital currency that will allow them to punish us from a distance and cut off our food supply. Vaccine passports.
Yeah. This is the shit that's going on. Right now, the shit that they're working towards. He said, Bill Gates said that his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to cover every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day. There is no such thing as privacy. There is no such thing as freedom. There is no such thing as anything. If we legit sit here and we allow them to just do what they want and we just roll over on our backs, we will be fucked. We will be slaves to the system. The UK is trying to push this through by end of the year. They can't do anything if we have mass non-compliance. Bummed I'm going to miss the rest of live. We'll watch later. Hey, no, that's 100% facts, and that's actually what we're going to get into next. It's a shame that you got to go, but I understand, you know, everybody has their own lives outside of YouTube and whatnot, so I do appreciate you tapping in for a short little while. But yeah, definitely check out the playback, because that's what we're going to be getting into next is the digital ID. But this is the stuff that's going on right now, and it's crazy to watch all this unfold in real time. And this is the stuff that they're not going to show you on the news. This is the stuff that they're not going to show you mainstream. They're not going to, because they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know what they're doing behind closed doors. They really don't. And it's crazy. It's crazy to think about. They're really going for mass mind control, mass compliance throughout the whole world. That's what they want. Don't give it to them. If you gotta lose your job because you refuse the digital ID, then you best believe you better lose your job. if you have to lose your money because you refuse a digital ID and digital currency, then lose your money. Find another way to make money. That's a fact. Don't sell your soul for comfortability. Don't do that. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and pull this up. We're going to go ahead and get this pulled up. And this could be the last thing that I want to look at in today's episode before we end it, which is the digital ID. Where is it? Come on, bro. Don't tell me I lost it. There it is, right here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this playback speed up because y'all already know how they be. They be on some they be some hoes when it comes to copyright. All right. All right, let's check this out.
ID scheme, which will be compulsory in order to work in the UK. The government says it will take aspects of similar initiatives in other countries, including Australia, where digital ID is used to access private services, Estonia, where it's used to access children's records, and Denmark, where students can store information about their education. Also India, where it's claimed a similar system has saved billions of dollars in fraud. Civil liberty groups and opposition parties have raised concerns about privacy and say the measure won't stop people coming into Britain illegally. Well, speaking on the Today programme earlier on Radio 4, the Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy clarified how the system would work.
From the end of this Parliament, every person in the UK will have a digital ID, and if you want to work in the UK, you'll be required to show proof of that through your digital ID. We think that's better for employers because at the moment it's far easier to fake papers. We think it's easier for them to be able to check that and know that what they're looking at is correct. And of course there are huge fines. You can even face a jail sentence if you employ someone illegally here in the UK. So we think it offers protection for them, and it also enables us to make sure that anyone who comes to this country who is working is doing so legally.
I want to get clarity, if I can, about whether this is compulsory. Now, you've just said something important. Every person in the UK will have a digital ID. Are you saying, whether you like it or not, you will have an identity that the government has for you on a database, but you will have a choice as to whether you actually have that on your mobile phone?
Yes, I think that's broadly right. So every single person will have a digital ID, and they'll have to have a digital ID. But they won't be required to use it on a daily basis. This is not like an ID card where you would be asked to show it as you're moving around. Many of the listeners will have been to other countries where you're required to carry an ID card at all times. That's not what we're proposing. It's not a card, it's a digital ID.
But someone could turn up at your factory
to have it on your phone
office.
or carry it around.
Forgive me, but someone could turn up at a factory or an office and say, prove that you have a right to work here. Prove, in other words, that you have a digital ID. That would be effectively compulsory for all workers.
Well, at the moment, somebody could turn up at a factory or a workplace and ask for checks to make sure that everybody who was there had the right to work in the UK. You wouldn't be required to have that with you at the time, but you would be required to have a digital ID and be able to produce that.
That's why I'm puzzled, you see. There are lots of arguments for digital ID which are nothing to do with migration. For convenience, lots of countries like Estonia, India, all sorts of countries introduce them, save people time, they save people carrying papers around with them or digging around, but that's not the government's argument. The government's argument is migration. You can be asked to show your papers now in a factory or in a workplace, or to go and find them. So what on earth difference is this going to make?
Well, first of all, it's a much more rigid system. At the moment, for example, you show you give your national insurance number to prove that you have the right to work in the UK. That's not linked to any kind of photo ID or anything else. So it's far easier to pass off somebody else's national insurance number as your own. We've seen a rise in the amount of identity theft and fraud, people losing documents only then to find that somebody else has taken over their identity.
Yo, what it do, man? We over here talking about digital ID and the mRNA vaccine bullshit that Bill Gates was talking about. We already covered those topics. We're actually on the last topic of the night, but yeah.
And I have many constituents who get in touch nowadays in a way that I didn't 14 years ago when I was first elected, saying that somebody has got insurance to drive using their identity. Our argument is illegal migration. That is the thing that we're most concerned about. But we do also think this is going to have major benefits.
Lisa Nandy there, being quizzed by Nick Robinson on the Today programme this morning. We are going to talk to our political correspondent to get a little bit more clarity about the nature of this digital scheme. But first, let's talk to Kieran Pedley, who's Director of Politics at the market research company Ipsos. Because, Kieran, you've been doing some research, you've been polling about this to find out how much public support there is. Firstly, let's start with the breadth of the research that you've done, because it was a relatively small research group. Just bring us up to date with how many people you were asking.
Good morning. So we've done a nationally representative poll of 1,100 Brits online, which is a pretty standard sample size for a poll of this kind. And we asked attitudes around ID cards, both sort of hard copies and digital, and also some of the reasons for and against support for them.
And thank you for clarifying that, because it's always important just to get the numbers out there. So in terms of a digital scheme, what kind of feelings were people sharing with you?
So I think that if we're going to summarise the research in a sentence, what we see is that there is broad support for the principle of ID cards. But then when you put the arguments for and against them to the public and ask about digital ID specifically, the picture is more nuanced. So to put numbers to that specifically, 38% of the public say they support the principle of digital ID, 32% oppose. So more in support than oppose, but less than a majority, less than half in support. And the reasons for support tend to be around convenience and the ease of being able to prove your identity. Also, there is some specific feedback that people think this could help combat illegal immigration, but there are concerns about data security and what would be on those cards too. So it's one of those cases where there's more in support than opposed, but the devil really is in the detail.
And it's that kind of detail that we don't have at the moment, which I guess makes your job very difficult. But when you then press people, what kind of questions were you asking them? Were you talking about, say, DNA information, or were you talking about other types of information that potentially could be on this digital ID scheme?
Well, I think when you think about digital ID, our poll at Ipsos shows there are two broad concerns that the public have that the government will have to address. One of them is about the government itself. Trust in government is pretty low at the moment. And so there are just over half of the public are concerned about the government's ability to roll out a scheme of this nature securely. On the information that would be contained on cards specifically, the public are pretty relaxed, I think it's fair to say, to have their photograph, their date of birth, perhaps information about their next of kin or their national insurance number. This is information people are reasonably relaxed about. But if this card was to include information such as your DNA, fingerprints, and perhaps sensitive information around your social security history or maybe your religious background, this is what concerns people. So again, we can give the headline numbers that say more are in support for this principle than oppose, and that is where the public are at today. There is sympathy with some of the arguments for this. But again, what matters is what information is going to be on this card and how is it going to be rolled out.
Yeah, the devil in the detail as always. Kieran Pedley from Ipsos, thank you very much. And it's that detail that we are trying to work out, we are trying to analyse, and we've been hearing earlier on from Lisa Nandy. She was talking to Nick Robinson, my colleague on the Today programme on Radio 4. Let's cross over to our political correspondent Harry Farley, who joins us from...
Let me tell you this right now real quick. Digital ID will not do anything to combat illegal immigration. If your borders are not secured and there is nobody watching them like there should be, people will always find a way into your country. People will always find a way around the laws, and they will continue doing what they want to do. They are hiding behind the guise of immigration to really take the next step in tracking your every movement. That's what digital ID is for, and that's why they're using the immigration argument.
Westminster. And Harry, it's that detail that we're kind of lacking in at the moment. Let's just start with whether this is going to be mandatory, because there was a question mark over that.
There was a question mark over that. So this will be compulsory in order to work in the UK, and that's the distinction that the government is making. So in order to get a job in the UK, you will have to have this digital ID card. So if, for example, if you're a pensioner, for example, or not working for other reasons, you will not have to have one. So it's not compulsory for absolutely everyone, and the government, that's one of the ways that the government is hoping to mitigate some of those concerns that, for example, the Liberal Democrats have expressed around elderly people maybe not having a smartphone, struggling with access to the internet and so on, being excluded from a universal compulsory system. This is compulsory in order to work in the UK. But so everyone, whether you're a UK citizen or not, in order to work, will have to have one. In terms of some other details that we do know, it will be held on people's smartphones, much like contactless mobile payments, for example, where you have having a boarding pass when you board a flight. You'll have to have one in order to work by the end of this decade. The government wants to have this scheme up and running by the next election. You won't have to carry it with you at all times. You won't be asked to produce it in the street, for example, but you will just need it for those right-to-work tests. And in terms of those other details, the government admit that they're going to consult on this. There will be a 3-month consultation announced, and then there will be legislation that has to go through Parliament. This will require a new law to bring this out. So we're not talking about this happening immediately. This will happen, consultation for the next few months, and then likely legislation next year.
Yeah, they've got an awful lot to work out in terms of the detail, given that they want to implement this before the end of this parliamentary term. But just in terms of the aspect of whether it's compulsory or not, I wonder, do you know, Harry, do we even know yet whether this is something that will be generated automatically, say like a national insurance number is, as we approach our 16th birthday many years ago, I'll be big for me, but when you get to that point, you automatically have a national insurance number generated. Is that where we are going with this, but then you don't have to have it on your phone, or is it something that you opt into, so you have to apply for it?
It's a very good question, and to be honest, those kind of details will come in the consultation and afterwards when we get the details of that legislation. One of the other things the government's going to consult on is exactly how much information is going to be on these cards. It was really interesting hearing about the polling there, about the levels of public support for the principle of some kind of digital ID, but then concerns around, perhaps having some fingerprint data, some DNA data on there as well, and whether that reduces the public support. It's a really interesting question. Speaking to people in government last night, saying that is one of the things they're going to be consulting on. They're going to be asking the public and experts for their views on that, and that will also have a bearing on how much this will cost, for example, because obviously the more information attached to these IDs, the more it will cost. One of the things that a government advisor said to me last night is that they are not at the moment thinking about linking this to medical records, so that's quite important to remember. They're not thinking of doing that at the moment. And he also makes the case that he thinks that...
Let me go back real quick because I think I missed something.
Good question, and to be honest, those kind of details will come in the consultation and afterwards when we get the details of that legislation. One of the other things the government's going to consult on is exactly how much information is going to be on these.
So he doesn't know either. Give me a second, y'all. I'll be right back. Alright, we're back. What the hell is going on with this goofy ass? There we go. Alright, let's keep going. We're almost
Cards. It was really interesting hearing about the polling there, about the levels of public support for the principle of some kind of digital ID, but then concerns around, perhaps having some fingerprint data, some DNA data on there as well, and whether that reduces the public support. It's a really interesting question. Speaking to people in government last night, saying that is one of the things they're going to be consulting on. They're going to be asking the public and experts for their views on that, and that will also have a bearing on how much this will cost, for example, because obviously the more information attached to these IDs, the more it will cost. One of the things that a government advisor said to me last night is that they are not at the moment thinking about linking this to medical records, so that's quite important to remember. They're not thinking of doing that at the moment. And he also makes the case that he thinks that in the last 20 years or so since we last had this debate, the government's view is that the public have shifted and that they are more used to having types of ID on smartphones, on digital devices. They're more open to that idea, and the government's argument is that, listen, this will have a fraction of the information that, say, a supermarket loyalty card has on it, and even smaller fraction than social media companies have about people. So their argument is that they think the public will support this, that attitudes to forms of identification have changed, and they hope that this will have the public support. It's worth saying, though, it has united the other parties in opposition to this. The Conservatives and Reform say this won't help to clamp down on illegal working. That's one of the justifications for the argument. And the Liberal Democrats and others expressing concerns about civil liberties, and particularly those people who might be excluded, for example, who don't have a smartphone.
Harry, as always, thank you very much for clarifying some of those aspects of what we know.
So, let me tell y'all something real quick. There is nothing that would stop the government or anybody who is in control of these digital IDs There is nothing that would stop them from being able to upload any information that you have onto that ID and holding it into their archive. There is nothing that would be able to stop them from tracking you, from listening to you, anything at all, watching you, nothing at all. So it doesn't matter if people are used to having some form of ID or not. There is nothing that can stop anybody from abusing that system at all, which is why it's not a good idea. I've already seen, I don't remember which airline it was. There was an airline, I just seen it probably like 30 minutes ago. But I saw a report, I don't know how true it is, because y'all know sometimes these reports be stupid. But I saw a report that said they were planning on cutting, I think it was like 4,000 jobs and replacing it with AI. It's crazy. There's nothing that nothing that would stop them from controlling you. And like I said, this is all just the next step towards the beast system, and it's crazy. It's crazy to watch it unfold in real time. Don't take it, and don't take that damn vaccine either. Don't take it. They come out with a new variant, a new variation of the vaccine. Don't take it. If your job tells you need it to keep working, throw them the deuces and go home. Straight up. Don't take it. Because they're really trying to control you out here. And it's not going to work. It's just like what Sandra said, mass non-compliance is needed. And that's what the world does not know, is that the people have the most power. That's a fact. So anyways, man, with that being said, I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Make sure y'all share with your friends, your families, your mummies, your aunties, your grannies, and everybody else that y'all know, man. I'm going to go ahead and jump up on out of here. Peace.